And welcome in to Look Around the Confederation here on SCV Chat. I'm your host this evening, John Blankenship, sitting in for Moose, who is working behind the scenes tonight to help us some of the graphics tonight. We'll have a special guest on with us here in just a little while, Mr. Forrest Daws, who is currently the Mississippi Division Commander, who is going to be seeking the office of Army of Tennessee Councilman. And we'll be talking with Forrest here in just a little bit. We have some questions lined up for him tonight as he seeks that office at the National Reunion in July in Lexington, Kentucky. We'll have those questions, and maybe we'll even get a few questions in from the audience tonight. Let me thank you first for joining us on this Thursday evening. It's March the 19th. Hope you've had a wonderful and blessed day here in West Tennessee. It has been gorgeous weather. Springtime officially coming in. I believe it's tomorrow and this weekend, and loving this spring weather. But we'll start out this evening, of course, with our show disclaimer. Of course, the views and opinions you hear on this broadcast are solely our own and not those of the SCV. It's GEC or any divisions, brigades, camps, or the other parts of our organization, solely our opinions tonight. And we do thank you for being with us this evening. Hello to all those that are joining us in the chat tonight. We've got several things to talk about. It's going to be a busy evening. We've got some news segments to go through, some other things that have been happening around the Confederation and activities that have been sent in to us. And we'll go over some of those this evening. So we are glad you are here with us, and just kind of taking a quick glance through the chat here of those that are on with us tonight. I see folks from all states around the Confederation this evening, and a big hello to you, but we don't want to spend too much time there. We won't get all those comments as we do on Tuesday night on the screen, but again, thank you for being here with us. And we're going to go through some of the events and start out, of course, with some news and activities this hour that have been going on around the Confederation and things that are to come. And let's start out with a few of those news items that have been sent into us. We'll start out with this one here. This is in Carthage, Missouri. This is going to be the annual reunion of the Missouri SCV Division, and also the Missouri Society of the Military Order of Stars and Bars. Their event is coming up, I believe that's next. Is that next weekend? Yeah, that's going to be next weekend, March the 27th and 28th in Carthage there. Going to be a good weekend. So make your plans there if you'd like to register. Of course, you can see that on the screen. MissouriSCV.org is the website. You can go and get all your hotel information, registration information, and we hope the guys up in Missouri have a great reunion. Also, this one here is sent in to us tonight. The Army of the Trans-Mississippi having their ATM field day on the battlefield. That will be coming up a little ways down the road, about a month from now, on Saturday, April the 18th. So there's going to be a good day of speakers and food and music and games, and we always love good fellowship. So you see all the details about that event coming up. Again, you can just search on social media there, and you will find out all the details about it. Mansfield Battlefield Park in Louisiana. That's going to be a good event coming up here about a month from now. Also, the Tennessee Division Reunion. You heard us on Tennessee Tuesday this week. Commander Mike Beck was with us to talk about the annual reunion in Tennessee, which is coming up a month from now on April the 17th and 18th. We did learn that they've extended that deadline till the end of March to get your registration in. If you would still like to come, it's a one cost for everything that's happening over the weekend. Of course, there will be a get-together on Friday night, the business meeting on Saturday, and then a monument dedication, which will take place at the General Longstreet Museum. The guy at the Bradford Rose Camp and the Sam Davis UDC have been working on that for several years, and that monument is being erected there at the Longstreet Museum. So that will be happening on Saturday afternoon of the reunion. Of course, a banquet on Saturday night. You see that registration form on your screen. If you would like to come to the Tennessee Division Reunion, you can go to TennesseeSCV.org, and there you will find all the details of registration information that you need. Let's also see, there's some other ones here to mention. The 2026 National Chaplains Conference registration. I know several folks already that have registered for this event. So if you haven't done so, you need to jump right on in and get that done. Again, you see the details. It will be at Elm Springs at the SCV International Headquarters in Columbia. Again, there's the details on March the 28th. It's going to be a good event. So make sure you send your chaplain from your camp, your brigade, or your division. Of course, it's $25 there per attendee. a good event. If you've never been to one of those, I believe you will thoroughly enjoy it. And our Tennessee Division chaplain, I know, is going. So that's a good event. Make your plans to be there. Still a little time left to do that, as that's coming up next weekend. Also, one that's coming up this Saturday, being hosted by the Highland Brigade of the Tennessee Division. Commander Mike Dunn of the Dillard Judd Camp in Cookeville, along with Brigade Commander Jimmy Vinson, helping organize this event. It's the second annual General Patrick Claiborne and St. Patrick Dinner. It's this Saturday, March the 21st in Monterey. That will be at 6 p.m. They've worked really hard, the guys there, to make this a very good event. So if you're up that way and want to have a good weekend and some good food and fellowship and a good program, that's coming up this Saturday at 6 p.m. Again, there's some of the events that we know that are going on and that are coming up here in the near future. So make your plans to be at some of those. Also, another one coming up a little over a month from now on Saturday, April the 25th. It's the 23rd Annual National Confederate Memorial Day service that will be there at Stone Mountain. If you've never been to Stone Mountain, that's something you need to plan, and this would be a good one to take that trip to. It's Saturday, April the 25th from 10 until 1. The keynote speaker is Pastor John Weaver. So if you've never heard from Pastor Weaver, and just great programs. He put out some CDs several years ago and some different talks. You will thoroughly enjoy his program. And again, a full lineup of activities that day. You can see they need some assistance with cannons and an honor guard. Again, you can reach out to the division commander there, Tim Pilgrim, at 404-456-3393. You can also search that on social media, and you'll find more details about the big event at Stone Mountain. That's coming up on April the 25th. So lots of events going on. Here's another one, the Arkansas Division having their reunion, which is coming up on Friday, April the 24th and Saturday, April the 25th. So make your plans to be at the Arkansas Division's reunion. I know they do a good job in Arkansas to put together a nice reunion and hosting two of these division reunions in Tennessee. Now, I know all the work that goes into that to make that successful. So if you're able to support your division's reunion, I encourage you, if you're a first-time goer, long-time goer, continue to go to those and support those great events. And that's the Arkansas Division reunion coming up. You see the contact information there on the screen. If you would like more information or to get your registration form, you'll be able to get that in. So there's a look at some of our news headlines as we go ahead and kick off with events here on the Look Around the Confederation. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll be talking with Forrest Daws, who is currently the Mississippi Division Commander. He serves in that role, and he is going to be seeking a new position in the Army level, in the Army of Tennessee, as the councilman, and we'll bring him on the General Executive Council, and we'll be talking with him here in just a little while. We've got some questions lined up tonight to talk to Forrest about. We'll be asking and maybe even take a few of those in the comments. So we do thank you for watching this evening. Hello to several folks that are now coming on, a good audience tonight. So again, it's good to be along with you this evening. Hope you've had a good week so far. Well, let's go ahead and jump into a few more things that have been happening. And my moose is helping me in the background. He's going to give you the details on the screen as we drop up these first photographs here. This is SCV Camp 1671. There they went and did a cemetery cleanup at Double Springs Cemetery. You can see some of the work that's been done there. And, of course, displaying the flag. Appreciate the guys there and sending that photograph in and the good work that they're doing there. Love folks that are getting out and doing cemetery cleanings and maintaining our ancestors' graves. So a shout out to those guys at Camp 1671. Also next here, you see some of our guys up here in Tennessee that I know well. The General Hatton Camp in Lebanon sponsored a recruiting table this past weekend at the Wilson County Fairgrounds. There you see David Daniels on the left. He's our Tennessee Division genealogist. Lieutenant Commander Rich Garcia in the center, and Commander Tom Wood of the General Hatton Camp. So we appreciate them and their work they're doing in recruiting. Also, next here, we have this one here, another one from the General Hatton Camp. They had their turkey shoot in March, another successful event. And you see some of those guys there getting ready for their turkey shoot. They do a great job at the Hatton Camp, another successful event. And continue along with this next photograph here, also from the General Hatton Camp. As you can tell, Tom Wood and his guys, Chuck Roydhouse and them, all very, very busy. Over 50 people in attendance you see there in that photograph from their McLemore Brigade dinner that was held in Lebanon. Jason Boshears, past commander-in-chief, was the keynote speaker. And if you've never heard Jason speak on General Claiborne, which is one of his folks he really looks up to, you missed a good one. So there was another good event. Also here, you see this group of gentlemen here, the Private William Riley Milton Camp 741 of Lake County, Florida, attended the Major General Breckinridge Camp in Oxford, Florida, their annual Lee Jackson event. Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy there was the guest speaker. And then you see some of the members of the camp there in the photograph with the flag. So appreciate them sending that in to us as well. And one more we have to share with you tonight that has been sent in. Again, there's Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy, Dr. John Fleming, the Louisiana Secretary of the Treasury and candidate for United States Senate from Louisiana, and John McKinney, the adjutant of the Ward SCV camp. They're pictured together in an event. So appreciate them sending in that event as well. Dr. Fleming assured everyone you see here he would not vote with the woke liberals. We like that. We want somebody that's going to stand for our monuments and protect them. So we appreciate his effort in standing up there as well. So if you want to send in events, Moose, you want to drop up that email address. If you have something going on in your camp and you would like it on Look Around Confederation, again, that email address we'll put on the screen here for you in just a moment. And we'll be sure to share that with you again, where you can send your videos, you can send photographs, scvyouthoutreach@gmail.com. And Moose will get that lined up and get it on the show for you. So make sure you send those events. That's how you get them on here and promote what your camp or your brigade or division is doing, sending those in to us, and we'll make sure that gets out for you to see, and other camps and the audience as it is growing here on SCV Chat. It's important you send that information to us. We want to promote what you are doing. So there's some news and activities that have been happening around the Confederation. And Moose, you may want to jump on with us here. I know you wanted to jump on before our first break, and I think you wanted to talk a little bit tonight. I know you're looking your best this evening.
John, you just have to find a guy when he looks the worst during the week. Wasn't expected to be on. I'm in the chat. I got some work aside me, and you just call me into action. Well, I guess this is a receipt for doing it to you so many times. Thank you for hosting tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commander Blankenship. And I'm on to talk about a quick update from our Commander-in-Chief, Walter D. Donnie Kennedy. And he says as follows. He wanted to talk about the HK Memorial Fund, and he asks, please take the time to go to our website, www.scv.org, under the donation tab, and donate to the HK Egerton Memorial Fund. Let me just fix that real quick. It will go to put a memorial bench to HK near the Forrest Plaza and enroll him into the 21st Century Confederate Heroes Project.
Awesome.
Any funds raised above the amount needed will be divided between the Forrest Plaza restoration effort and the Museum and Elm Springs Fund. Those individuals, camps, or other organizations donating to HK's fund will be listed in our 21st Century Confederate Heroes book as HK donors. We pray that God will keep HK's memory alive as we continue the fight that HK fought so well. God bless America, and God save the South. And this is what HK's bench will look like at headquarters.
Nice.
So it will be a beautiful bench, and we are asking that everybody please donate to this fund so we can put up this bench in honor of HK, who did so much to honor our ancestors.
Yep.
Now, coming up in May, we have a big event at headquarters. I've heard of it. It's called the Pilgrimage.
Yeah.
It is our homecoming event. It's kind of the National SCV's Confederate Memorial Day service. It's all those great things rolled into one event that we have just labeled as the Pilgrimage. Thank you, John.
There's the graphic about it. There's all the details you need to know.
You surprised me so hard because I've never had someone help me produce on the show. So seeing that popped up.
See, we can work together like that.
But as always, the first weekend in May, we'll be celebrating our National SCV Confederate Memorial Day service, homecoming, and pilgrimage to the general headquarters of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Join us on May 2nd as we celebrate Confederate history. We will also be dedicating a World War I monument to 4 Tennessee soldiers who gave their full measure of service to Tennessee and the United States during the war. Like so many officers and enlisted men of the South, they had ancestors who fought during the war for Southern independence. This World War I monument was a part of Forrest Park/Plaza that was from Memphis and given to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The monument will be flanked by a flagpole flying the Tennessee flag, and a plaque explaining where this monument came from and why is it being displayed at headquarters. Also, during the pilgrimage, they will be dedicating the H.K. Egerton Memorial Bench, and they ask you bring flower tributes, chairs, and picnic baskets. That's a new one.
Yeah.
And enjoy your time at your headquarters. Of course, it starts off at 11 a.m. You can see the master of ceremonies will be our very own Walter D. Donnie Kennedy, Commander-in-Chief. And I have heard our keynote speaker before. She's a member of the UDC. She's an archivist.
She is excellent, Moose. She is an excellent speaker.
Phenomenal. I am so happy I get to hear her again. She actually spoke at the Mississippi Division reunion not too long ago. I believe it was last year's reunion, and she was phenomenal. It will be an honor to hopefully record this event again and to hear her speak. And let me tell you, if you've not heard her, you need to go hear her speak. So if you don't have anything going on that day, I will go to the pilgrimage at the Sons of Confederate Veterans headquarters. And
it's going to be a fun time. I've been several times before. Love going to headquarters. Was there just this past weekend, Moose. Of course, they had the Sam Watkins Book Festival.
Yes.
Brought about 40 books home. You see a couple of them here behind me on the table. Brought some stuff home, filled a bag up for $40, and you got some back there too. Look there, there's books back there too.
Yeah, well, that was a trick by Adam's lady. That's going to get me shot at reunion, mind you, that joke. But she sold me the Civil War narrative by Shelby Foote, all 3 volumes. She was very nice. She gave me a discount. And just want to remind everybody to please go up to Kayla Southern and just tell her thank you and that Harrison loves you, and do not treat Harrison badly and put him
be real nice to
moving furniture.
Moose, you mentioned the copy of the Civil War there from Shelby Foote. I have a full set of those too, but mine are something special. Mine are autographed by him, and he autographed them for me. I came to him and met him in Memphis several years ago before he passed away, and that's a pretty prized possession. So they could be yours for the right price. I mean, I'm not saying I have to have them forever. So if the price is right.
Hey, if you ever think about selling them, I know I almost paid $800 for an edition that he signed. So you'll come to the right person. I have faith in you.
Yeah, Shelby Foote's a great one, and it was an honor to meet him. Met him a couple of times, and I love listening to him talk that good, true Southern gentleman voice. Just listen to him talk for hours, and just his knowledge and wisdom. Great. He's great.
He's, of course, one of my idols when it comes to historian work. I have a 3-hour interview of his on my phone saved at all times, just so whenever I can listen to him, I can. I have a couple of his interviews saved on my phone. So, yeah, no, I love Shelby Foote. So, yeah, that's very neat. I'm extremely jealous. I lost the eBay war for a signed copy, and I got these from headquarters. And I was like, well, if I can't get them from a signed copy, I'll get some.
At least you've got a set of them now, so that's good. Have you read through them yet? Have you read through the 3-book volume?
I have not. So I'm actually.
I've read through them. It's been several years. I really need to read them again.
I am looking forward to starting to read them sometime after May. I said I wanted to wait a couple years when I originally figured out about Shelby Foote and learned about him. But now I feel like I'm primed and ready to just read and enjoy him. I'm not going to take notes this time. Yeah. I just want to read and enjoy his work because I loved Shiloh.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I got started. Is someone recommended for me to read Shiloh when I was at Ole Miss, and it took me down the rabbit hole. But right now, I'm actually reading a book, and I can't tell you what it is because we have gotten the author to agree to come on to be one of our big guests in April. So I can't tell you that one, but I am currently reading a book and taking notes on it. So hopefully I can give this guy a good host. But
man, that'll be great.
Oh, I can't wait. I can tell you about it off the air, John. You're in the
yeah, I'm anxious to hear that. You'll have to let me in on that secret. And you mentioned authors tonight, and I think this would be a perfect segue to go into our show sponsors this evening. One of those is booksbylarry.com. This is, of course, Larry McClooney. What did you think about that segue? Was that pretty good?
Oh, the segue is fantastic. The picture of Larry is even better. That is a past commander-in-chief. That is a former educator.
Yes. Of course, he's one of our show sponsors, his new book, Paradox of Freedom. And he was at Elm Springs this past weekend, and I didn't get to hear his presentation on the book. Me and Jason were outside making videos, playing in the yard. But I heard him in there from the distance, and I know he does a great presentation. And he had, of course, the book there you see on the screen for sale. Also, a shout out to Dr. Chris Cummings. Of course, I got to meet Dr. Cummings several years ago in Jackson when he was up this way, a great doctor. And as we know, he specializes in knee pain, Moose. So if you're experiencing that, as I've got, will be 44 in April, and I'm experiencing the knee pain, the arthritis, and that type of stuff. You're dealing with knee issues, pain issues, and any other medical issues, you can reach out to him. Modern Medicine with Southern Hospitality, and he is stationed in Oxford. So go see Dr. Cummings, and we appreciate his sponsorship. Also, 31st Regiment Engraving tonight is one of our show sponsors this evening. Of course, you see on the screen some of the products that they make and sell. You can reach out to them by visiting their website, which is 31stregengraving.com. And you can learn more about them. We appreciate their sponsorship this evening. Also, Beauregard's Tailor, and you see the products there that they offer, such as flags, lapel pins, T-shirts, and then, of course, the War Between the States reproductions, as you see there on the left side of your screen. Just some of the products that they can offer, and you can check them all out on their website, which is beauregardstailor.shop. So we appreciate their sponsorship. And finally, tonight, the museum at Market Hall, which is the home of the Confederate Museum since 1899 in Charleston, South Carolina. I got to visit that for the first time a couple of years ago when the National Reunion was held in Charleston. Again, they're open on Thursday through Sunday, 11 to 4. And as their motto is, if the flag is out, they are open. So that is a museum you want to go see and support. And we do appreciate their sponsorship and support of SCV Chat and all the programs that you see here on this network. So some fine sponsors we got. I know there's a new one coming on soon. We're working out the details there. And Moose, how can they become a sponsor for a regular sponsorship or also a Patreon sponsor? Tell me how that works.
Well, it's quite simple. So for $2.50 a month, you can just give us some general support. You get some behind the scene content. You can message us. You can talk to us. But for $10 a month, that's when it gets interesting. You get your name displayed at the end of every SCV Chat produced episode. And, of course, you get a lot more behind-the-scenes content, your own show. You technically have two, but, you know, we'll blame Connor for the lack of the other one, even though it's my show. And he's not here to defend himself. And you, of course, get so much behind-the-scene content. Especially you want that this year because we are producing some one-of-the-kind videos. Connor and I have talked about it. We believe these short educational videos are some of the things that we're going to be really knocking out of the park for SCV Chat this year. Be the first to see it and be the first to help with the script. Yeah. Give us some of your thoughts. Give us some feedback. And then, of course, for $30 a month, you can get exclusive SCV Chat merchandise that not even me and Connor, the co-owners of SCV Chat, have access to. And, of course, for $80 a month, you can sponsor our show. You, of course, get your slide at the beginning. You get a great commercial break. Hopefully you've enjoyed it at the middle of the show. And, of course, our eternal thank you and a way into the script. And, of course, you never know what can happen because we just had a Beauregard-sponsored episode with Beauregard's Tailor with Fun with Flags, and I can confirm. Now, I don't want to reveal who the book is yet, but I can say the museum at Market Hall will kick off the very special Monday episodes of April. So the first Monday in April, we will have the museum at Market Hall on to talk. Of course, April is a big month for us here on SCV Chat, where we knock it out of the park, and we usually have reached hundreds of thousands of people that month. So we highly encourage y'all check us out there and thank them for agreeing to come on. Support us and check us out on scvchat.com. And without further ado, I'll take my four-eyed self out of the equation, and I'll let y'all get to why you were here in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, let's do this. We'll go ahead and Moose, thank you. We'll bring Forrest on now. Go ahead and bring him on the screen. We're going to welcome him in, and we're going to take, after we do a little intro with Forrest, we'll take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and we'll get into some questions. So Forrest Daws is our guest this evening. Forrest, who is currently the division commander in the state of Mississippi and is going to be a candidate for the position of the Army of Tennessee Councilman, which will put him as a sitting person on the GEC, and we're looking forward to talking with Forrest tonight. And Forrest, welcome in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this evening.
Well, Forrest, we want to kind of talk a little bit of personal information about you. We want to learn who you are, and let's kind of talk a little bit about kind of how you got interested in history, and maybe even how you got up to join the SCV to where you are today. And I know with a name like Forrest, you've had a connection to history since birth for you.
Absolutely. So I have been a history fan all of my life. Probably, if I had to say where it started, when I was about first or second grade. My parents took me on a family trip, and we went to Virginia. Primarily on that trip, it was more Revolutionary history. We went to Williamsburg, Yorktown. But certainly have always been fascinated with all history, but primarily U.S. history, and primarily the War for Southern Independence and before. My name does carry a certain historical relevance.
It's been heard somewhere along the way. I've heard that name somewhere in Southern history.
Yes. So my great-great-grandfather was with the 10th Alabama Cavalry, and he actually fought under Forrest at the Battle of Sulphur Creek Trestle, just north of Athens, Alabama. And he was actually captured in December of '64 and died at Camp Chase, Ohio, the following March. And so my grandmother, that would have been her grandfather,
sure,
always remembered that and named my father Forrest.
Oh, wow.
And then my father named me Forrest, and now my son is named Forrest. So we have 3 generations of Forrest in our family, and all because my grandfather rode with a general. So
you mentioned your grandmother and talking about which would have been her grandfather. Did she know him, or was he already gone when?
She did not. So he, as I said, died in March of '65, and his son actually never knew him. Never got a chance to meet him. He left during the war and survived from wounds, but contracted disease at Camp Chase and succumbed to that. And actually, I've been looking for years and finally found that out. It's always been a mystery. There wasn't a whole lot of information. Yeah. And I finally found that out about a year and a half ago. And so we're very excited when we go to the national reunion this year. We're going to drive on up to Camp Chase.
Oh,
for the first time in my life, I'll be able to lay eyes on the headstone of my great-great-grandfather.
That's an exciting thing to be able to do. Experience that before, to get to see those ancestors where they're laid to rest. So, Forrest, let's talk a little bit about, you kind of told how you got involved in history and the interest there. What really got you started in the SCV? How long have you been a member, and what got you the interest there?
So I've been a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans for almost 26 years. I've said this, and some people that may have heard a speech that I've given have heard this exact story. There was a time I did not know the organization even existed. In the late 90s, after I was discharged from the U.S. Navy, I decided to go back and complete my undergraduate education. And I chose the University of Mississippi as to where I wanted to do that. And I was trying to revive my basketball career and get on the team up there and then play a little ball and work on my education. And that was the very beginning of the Confederate cleansing that was going on at our once proud flagship university. And Christmas of 1999, I was home for the holidays, and I was standing out in the front yard of my great-grandmother's house talking with a cousin. And I was telling him everything that was going on at Ole Miss, and he could see that I was kind of getting worked up. And he looked at me and he said, "You should join the Sons of Confederate Veterans." And I was still kind of fired up, so I looked back at him and fired right back. I said, "What's the Sons of Confederate Veterans?"
Yeah, what is that?
I didn't even know that the organization existed. And thankfully, my cousin was also the newly elected camp commander for the local camp in Waynesboro. And so when I came back home for spring break, I turned in my application, the camp approved me, and on May 4th, 2000, I received my membership certificate in the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Wow. So that's got your interest there. You're now a member at that point. Let's talk a little bit about, before we take our first break for us, and then we're going to get into some questions of what your vision and plans are for the future of the SCV. What are some of the roles that you've kind of held from after you joined? Where have you been in the organization so far?
Well, I'll share this story as well. For the longest, for the bulk of my membership, I stayed at the camp level. I was camp commander for almost 20 years. And I want to also pause here and say there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think I've done some of my best work at the camp level. I've said over and over, the individual member and the individual camp is the backbone of this organization. And so I'm not in any way demeaning someone staying involved at just the camp level. Quite the opposite. I encourage that. However, when it all changed for me was in 2019. The Mississippi Division elected the youngest division commander in our division's history, George Connor Bond, and he called me up and asked if I would serve as chairman of the Division Monuments Committee.
Okay.
And I said, absolutely, I would be honored to do that. That was my first position outside of the camp level. And I said, what does the monuments chairman do? And so he and I talked a little bit, kind of got a game plan together. I started traveling all over the state, taking photographs, documenting the condition of our monuments, locations, things of that nature. And it was all pretty straightforward until the spring of 2020. And I don't think I have to remind anyone in our organization what happened in the spring of 2020. And for me, it all changed when I stood in my living room on the phone with the Birmingham Police Department as the Confederate monument in Birmingham, Alabama was defaced and absolutely nothing was done.
Yeah.
And it was at that point I said, okay, I've got to get more involved. I've got to get involved at a higher level in this organization. And that next term, I ran for 5th Brigade Executive Councilman here in Mississippi. I won that. And I jumped from there to First Lieutenant Commander. And immediately I kind of got thrown into the fire on that. Our newly elected division commander had some serious health issues, and I ended up having to step in and fill in. I did not, he stayed in office, but he was in the hospital for a while, and I had to take the reins. And so then this past summer, I was elected as Mississippi Division Commander. And in between all that, I also was asked by past Commander-in-Chief Jason Boshears if I would serve as Historian-in-Chief. And then our current Commander-in-Chief, Donnie Kennedy, asked me to stay on in that capacity. So those are some of the positions that I've held, again, mostly within the last 5 or 6 years. And I can honestly say I've learned something at every position that I've held in this organization that has prepared me for the next step in my journey.
Well, we're going to be talking more about that next step coming up here in just a few minutes. So, Forrest, if you'll stay with us, we need to take our first break. We'll come back, and we've got a list of questions we're going to go through and let you answer those tonight. And if time permits, you've even agreed to maybe take a couple from those that are in chat tonight with us. So we appreciate you being with us. So let's go ahead and do this first break. We'll come back. We'll be right back on Look Around the Confederation on SCV Chat.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told. If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
And welcome back in to Look Around the Confederation on SCV Chat. I'm your host tonight, John Blankenship, sitting in for Moose for this special edition. Of course, of the program tonight is our guest is Forrest Daws, who is currently the commander of the Mississippi Division of the SCV, and he is a candidate now for a new position, the Army of Tennessee Councilman, which will if elected, will put Forrest on the General Executive Council. We've talked a little bit about his background so far and how he got involved in the organization and to where he is currently. And now we kind of want to jump in, Forrest, to a few questions here and to see where you want the SCV to go in the future. And you've seen a copy of these questions, so we got that disclosure out there that you've seen the questions, you know what they are, and we'll go through those tonight if that's okay with you. And we'll see where the program leads, and know you've got plenty of time to answer those as you feel led to.
Sounds good, John. Thank you.
All right, let's jump into our first question so far. It says, what motivated you to run for a position on the GEC or the General Executive Council of the SCV? What was your motivation?
Well, I'm going to rewind to that story I said right before the break. Really, for me, this journey started in 2020. And why I'm just now running for the General Executive Council is simple: experience. I spent the last 5 years honing my knowledge of this organization and learning how to navigate it and lead this organization by serving at different positions. Brigade Councilman, First Lieutenant Commander, Mississippi Division Commander, an appointed position at the national level with Historian-in-Chief. I've attended the last several GEC meetings just to sit in and see how things operate. So the motivation really for me came several years ago, and I'm just now at the place to where I feel comfortable enough, like, yeah, I'm ready, I can do this now.
All right. Well, our next question tonight for you, Forrest, is how do you envision your role contributing to the overall mission and the goals of the SCV?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm a doer. I'm a take the bull by the horns kind of guy. I don't like kicking the can down the road. I do believe in doing due diligence. I do believe in prudence. I do believe that sometimes, you've got to look at things from all angles. But once you've done that and formulated a plan of attack, it's time to attack. And so from my standpoint, I want to be very proactive. Anybody that knows me knows I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do the work. When I was a basketball coach, I never asked my players to do anything that I had not done myself, and in my younger days would still do. If they're going to run sprints, I'm going to run sprints. If they're going to be in at a reasonable hour, I'm going to be in at a reasonable hour. So, I'm not going to ask the membership to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. Yep. I'm definitely a lead from the front lines kind of guy, and that's the philosophy that I've got that I want to bring forward.
Well, Forrest, what are some specific initiatives or changes maybe that you would like to see if you get brought on to the General Executive Council?
Well, there's a few things. We've got a few different things going on here in Mississippi that I feel like could benefit the national level. One thing, and I know some other divisions have done this as well, but one thing that we have started over this past year is we created a division level cadet program. And I'm in no way trying to talk ill of the National Cadet Program.
Sure.
Quite the opposite. My son was the 7th cadet member in the Confederation. As soon as they announced that program, I was very excited, thought it was great, signed him up immediately. But, you know, he got a certificate, he got a pen, and that was kind of it. And so I thought, you know, we really need to be engaging our children. And people ask me all the time, and I'm going to brag on him a little bit. You know, people see my son and he's in his 20s and he's holding national office, division office. He's camp commander. He's on fire for the cause and he's leading in every direction. People, you know, see other young men that age that you can't even get them to join. And they're like, how did you do it? One of the things is I involved him. I involved him and I engaged him. One of the earliest things that I think he'll tell you he can remember is every April he went with me to the cemetery to set flags out. And, you know, when we first started, I don't even think he really knew what we were doing. But he was there and he was seeing me do it and setting that example, and I was involving him. I brought him to meetings with me and let him see how the organization works. And I didn't just stick him over in a corner. I encouraged him to ask questions. I encouraged him to be a part of it. And so I think that's something that we could use on the national level. We've got this cadet program. Let's kind of re-energize it. Let's engage our young people. Another thing that I've talked to a lot of people about, and this is something that a lot of people have various opinions on, and you know, the good Lord gave us that right. You can have your opinion, I can have mine, but I do think that recruiting is something that it's not a one size fits all. And I'm very much in favor of going after youth and targeting youth with our recruiting. But some people will hear that and they'll misunderstand that. I'm not saying to stop recruiting people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I'm just saying that we also need to try to recruit those that are in their teens, 20s, and 30s. And, you know, that's going to mean changing things up. So one thing that I did was I created a separate committee with the Mississippi Division that focuses on recruiting members under the age of 40. And then I allow my normal, the pre-existing recruiting and retention committee to focus on our, what I'll call our traditional members, our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and up. And so far that's working for us. We're in the infancy stage, but those are just a couple of things that I think we could benefit from enacting that at the national level.
Well, you mentioned recruiting, Forrest, and this kind of leads us into our next question. What are some of the most pressing challenges you see that we have in our organization today, and what could you do to address them?
Well, one thing that it doesn't do any good to stick your head in the sand. You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about different ways to go about this, but at the end of the day, right, wrong, or indifferent, we have a public perception problem is what we have. Some people will take great offense. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. No, there is nothing wrong with it, but don't convince me, convince the people that are our enemies or the people that are scared to join the organization because they don't fully understand who we are and what we do. So I think one of the first things we have to do is go on the offensive with PR campaigns and with getting our message out there of exactly who we are and what we do. Once we start convincing the general public who doesn't really know that we exist, well, you know, really two things, John. One, that we do exist. Yeah. I told a story of my own personal experience in 1999 that I didn't know this organization existed. I would have joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans as a teenager. I didn't know it was an option because I didn't know it existed. So we've got to get our name out there better, for one thing. But then two, when we get that name out there, we've got to let people know who we really are and what we're really all about, and shed some of the image that the mainstream media is painting us with in that negative light. And when we do those things, I think that's automatically going to transition into easier and better recruiting.
Well, Forrest, you mentioned earlier some of your ideas and things you'd like to see happen in the organization. How will you collaborate with other members on the GEC to find those common objectives to work together?
You know, I keep coming back to it, and I'm going to poke a little fun at our past commander-in-chief, Larry McClooney always talks about being an educator. Well, I always talk about being an educator as well as a basketball coach. And one thing that always stuck with me, and I'm trying to remember which legend said this, quote that I used a lot, but if you don't worry about who gets the credit, it's amazing what you can get accomplished.
Yeah.
And I would communicate with the other members of the council, not just twice a year at Elm Springs, but really communicate with them and share ideas and thoughts. And there's been times that I've had an idea and it's been a good idea, but somebody comes in and puts a different spin on it. And I'm like, wow, that's better. Let's go that direction. We have to put our egos aside. First of all, I'm going to step on some toes there, and I'm not calling any names. If the shoe fits, wear it. But we do have to check our egos a little bit and put the organization first. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about our ancestors, and it's about our mission. And if we check our egos and listen to our compatriots around us, there's some really good ideas. And if we'll all collaborate and then roll up our sleeves and pour our energy into the best possible scenario, I think we're going to see results.
And I think what you just talked on there, Forrest, really kind of leads us into our next question. When you look at the broader membership of our entire organization, how do you make sure their perspectives and their views and concerns are brought into the decision-making process on the council?
Absolutely. Same principle, larger audience. Just you have to talk and you have to communicate. Now, I will take this opportunity, and this might cost me some votes, but anybody that knows who I am, I'm going to tell it like it is. Good, bad, ugly. I will own it when I make a mistake, but I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Some of our members have to do their job in communicating with us. I can't tell you the amount of times I've come up to people and said, well, I didn't know anything about that. Well, did you read your veteran? Have you signed up for the Telegraph? Are you doing your part to communicate with headquarters? And oftentimes the answer is no. They're not reading their veteran. They haven't signed up for the Telegraph, or they don't read it when they do get it. That's your fault. When you point the finger, three's pointing back at you. And I hate to tell everybody, but a room full of a handful of men in Elm Springs is not who's to blame or the successes or failures of the organization. It's all of us. Those men are simply trying to represent the people and lead the organization. But at the end of the day, it takes every single member we have. I started out with that as well. The strength of this organization is the individual member and the individual camp. Are you doing your part? I'm going to work hard to make sure I do my part, but you've got to do your end too.
Well, Forrest broke up a little bit there on us. Hope that will jump back in with audio again. Forrest Daws is our guest tonight. CV Chat and Look Around the Confederation. We do appreciate him being here with us tonight. That audio dropped off a moment, so we'll continue. And as soon as he rejoins and comes back on, looks like his video froze up on us tonight. We will jump right back into our questions that we have again for Forrest this evening. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll take a quick break here, and then we will come back and we will finish up our conversation and our interview this evening with Forrest Daws.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. My father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't. When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. My father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive. Or, as Robert E. Lee said, the best way to disrupt your enemy's plans is to strike first. Everyone should do all in his power to collect and disseminate the truth, in the hope that it may find a place in history and descend to posterity. History is not the relation of campaigns and battles and generals or other individuals. but that which shows the principles for which the South contended and which justified her struggle for those principles. If you're looking for some place to be where you think you're going to accomplish something to save our history, go to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I'm Thomas Lee Jesse. I'm a descendant of Private Daughtery Gilmer, a Confederate veteran.
And welcome back in to Look Around the Confederation on this Thursday evening. I'm your host, John Blankenship, sitting in for Moose tonight. Our guest is Forrest Daws, who's currently the Mississippi Division Commander and a candidate for Army of Tennessee Councilman. And we were in our conversation, had a little freeze up a video there, Forrest. So we're going to jump back into our questions here this evening. And you talked a little earlier about when you joined the SCV. It was something that you hadn't heard of. So this next question kind of goes along those lines. When you look at public perception and what people think of our organization, when potential controversies come up and criticisms, how will you handle those? How will you address those?
Head on. One thing that I think we need to do, and I'm big on this, and we've all heard this saying before, the days of meet, eat, and retreat have to stop. If all your camp is doing, and I don't mean to criticize, but sure, I am calling it like it is. If all your camp is doing is gathering once a month, listening to a speaker, and then going home into the next month, don't be surprised when we're not really changing public perception. One thing that we can do that we have to do more of is be out in our communities and be active in our communities. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. We did the late Mr. Tom Meadows when he came down to Mississippi. I asked him to come down and get a CERT program going for us. Yeah. And we were going to do it at Beauvoir because, hey, we own the cemetery. Nobody's going to bother us. Well, the problem is they had just cleaned the cemetery at Beauvoir. So called an audible and said, let's see if we can go to the Biloxi Cemetery, the city cemetery. And we got permission to do that. And at first, the city was they kind of gritted their teeth. Well, I guess you guys can do that. Mm-hmm. Well, we go and we hold the program there, clean some of the headstones. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we're getting calls. Wow, that looks great. You guys come back anytime. We completely changed the perception of who we are and what we do with that one project that we did. Just one CERT class in a city cemetery. And all of a sudden, the people at City Hall went from gritting their teeth and holding their nose to big smiles when we walk in the room and welcoming us. Yeah. But you've got to get out of your comfort zone sometimes to do that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping for a different result. Nothing wrong with the things that we've done in the past. Nothing wrong with some of the things we're doing now, but we do have to think outside of the box. And to me, key among that, and it's going to depend on where you are, what community you're in is what is going to be a good choice. But the key to it is to get out in the community and be involved and showing people who we are and what we do. And when we do that, there's going to be some people that we're never going to win over. Sure. You got to accept that. You're not going to get 100%. Heck, you're not going to get 100% amongst our own organization. Somebody's going to be complaining about something. But those that are on the fence, which in my opinion is the majority, we will win them over if we just get out in the community and show them who we are. And then next thing you know, you're going to have somebody that's not even a member standing up saying, wait a minute, no, I know those guys. They're good people.
Absolutely good point tonight. I want to share this one comment here for us from past Commander-in-Chief Chuck McMichael. A majority of a camp's activities should be between meetings, not at it. A very good point he makes there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Commander. I agree with that 100%. But between those meetings, that's, well, really the same thing. I'll get biblical for a little bit. It's not about what you do on Sunday morning. It's about what you do between Sundays. Are you living your life for the Lord, or are you just putting on a coat and tie and carrying a Bible on Sunday mornings? Because if that's all you're doing, I don't think you're doing exactly what the Bible tells us to do. Well, being a good member is the same thing. If you're showing up at a meeting, that's great. But what are you doing between meetings?
Yeah. Very good point. Well, the last question I've got for you from our list tonight, Forrest, is as we look ahead down the road for the SCV, and if you're elected, what do you envision some of the key milestones or accomplishments that you would like to happen during your tenure on the council?
Well, one thing that I'm fired up about, and we're making some progress, and I want to thank all of the people that have had such a huge part in working toward making this happening. But getting the Forrest Plaza back up at headquarters is something that I would be extremely excited to see happen should I get elected during my tenure in office. That I certainly think goes as a milestone. You know, I never thought, and I think most of the people who've been in the organization 15, 20, 30 years would agree with this. I never thought I would see the day when we were digging up bodies and moving them because people thought they were offensive. And now here we are, we've got an opportunity to recreate that plaza and give it the honor and respect it deserves right there on our home campus. So that's certainly something that I'm excited about seeing. But, you know, something else is membership revitalization. I want to see a surge in our membership. To me, that would be a huge milestone. And some people know, a lot of people that know me know this as part of my historian in chief's work. I've been working on a history of the SCV, and a lot of people are surprised. They're hearing the numbers and they get a little depressed. But I'm going to share something with you. And some people know this, but a lot of our membership does not know this. In 1949, there were 526 members in the Sons of Confederate Veterans nationwide. 526. We almost folded. One man, and I'm grateful to call him a Mississippian, Dr. W.D. McCain, stepped up and took the role as adjutant in chief in 1953. By the time 1963 rolled around, they had doubled their membership. By the time he stepped down in 1993, 40 years after taking the position, there were over 30,000 members in the organization.
Wow.
We had a permanent headquarters, and the treasury was flush. That's because a small group of people rolled up their sleeves behind good leadership and got to work. We did it before, and we can do it again.
Well, Forrest, man, it's been great tonight. These questions, great job. I appreciate your professionalism and answering all these questions tonight and being on with us. And before we wrap up, I know we mentioned if there's any questions in the comment section here tonight, and those that are viewing, you'd be happy to take a couple of those. Some nice comments, and I know you've probably watched some of the chat tonight as well. Several folks have said some very nice things this evening, and a good viewership this evening. But as we get ready to wrap up tonight, anything else that you would want to include that maybe we didn't have in those questions that you'd like to say?
Well, I've been doing a lot of speaking, obviously. Call it campaigning, call it what you will. I tell people all the time, whether I get elected or not, I'm really not going to change what I do. A neck ribbon or a title is not defining me. I'm going to continue to work for my ancestors one way or the other. But I have been traveling a lot and giving a lot of speeches. And this is what my challenge is to all the camps and the people that I've spoke to. Go back to what motivated you to join in the first place. Remember what it was that lit that fire inside of you. Let that fire reignite, but now take that fire out and fan the flames.
Yeah. That's exactly it. We have one question tonight. Now, you've kind of touched on this, but I want to go ahead and share it with you. Al had this to say, Commander, what would you do differently in order to better recruit younger members? You've kind of touched on that tonight. Do you want to add anything else to that?
I did. So one thing that we've done here in Mississippi, we split our heritage operations into three distinct groups: heritage defense, heritage promotions and education, and heritage legislation. And what he's talking about is going to fall right there in the middle with heritage promotions and education. And one thing that we're trying to do is put an emphasis on social media. A lot of people are not on Facebook. They're not on YouTube. They're not on Instagram or any of these things, but a lot of people are. Yeah. I understand a lot of the older members are like, well, I'm not on that. That's great. We have other things that we can do. But I do think a social media push, videos and clips that capture their attention, that bring them in, as an educator, something that is important is you got to hook your students. You've got to get them interested in what you're talking about, because let's be honest, most kids this day and age are not interested in it. And so you've got to find that quick hitter, that little piece of information, that little hook that's going to get their attention. And then just like fishing, you got to reel them on in.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to get that information out there is by better utilizing social media. And I think that has to be a top priority. And I commend the current council for finally taking steps to do that a little bit better. If I get elected, I'm definitely going to make sure that we see that through.
One more final question tonight that we'll put on the screen here. It's still going along with the same discussion there from Commander Stubblefield here in Tennessee. He said, what's the best way to get youth to join when they're afraid of losing their jobs? That's kind of something we hear, Forrest. Folks say, not just youth, but adults alike, I'm fearful for my job. If, like we have ags in Tennessee, hey, people, they kind of standoffish. How do we address that? How do we help them to encourage them?
It is. Unfortunately, it's something, and a lot of times it's been my experience, a lot of our older members are not very sympathetic with that. And while I understand both sides, there's two sides to everything, I will also say that, you know, if you're 65, 70 years old and you're retired, you probably aren't very worried about it. Mm-hmm. But if you're a young man in your 20s, 30s, just starting out, you got a family to provide for, yeah, that's something you got to concern yourself with. My suggestion is the same suggestion that my father and most people had when you're dealing with bullies growing up. You got to stand up to them. And at the end of the day, we can't be scared of who we are, and we can't be, if you do, you're going to be running for the rest of your life, you know, and we've all, I think, had that advice dealing with bullies, you know, well, if you give in to them, you'll always be giving in to them. If we give in to people who are trying to shame us for our history and heritage, we'll always be giving in to them. One thing I'm quick to do, my college roommate was an attorney, and you know what? You come at me and you threaten my rights, I'll threaten to sue you real quick. We have to stand up for ourselves. And I would just tell people, while I understand your fears, don't be afraid. Don't give in to fear. Not in this, not in any part of your life. Stand up to them. And when we all stand together and stand behind them, it's going to be okay.
And Forrest, I'm glad that discussion was brought up there, that question, or a little comment from me on a personal note. Our SCV license plates that we have in the state of Tennessee, I have one of those on my truck. And of course, I work in a community that's mostly leans liberal, so you know kind of how that feels. There was one African-American gentleman that really had an issue when I was hired for a job here in the city, that I had those tags, which has a SCV logo on it. But I quickly learned, once you stood up to them and said, this is a legal tag in the state of Tennessee, that you can have this. And once this individual said, I may not ever agree with you, John, but once they learned who we were and what we stood for, that what our organization is, it's never been brought up again.
That's it. And I would tell people that I would ask you to judge me on my actions, not preconceived notions, not who you think I am, but what you've actually seen me do and say. And that's the same advice that I would give anybody in this situation. Okay, you see that, you want to say that that's what that makes me, but have you seen anything in my demeanor that would allow you to draw that conclusion other than that? Absolutely not, and you're not going to. So you don't judge me, I won't judge you, and in the end, we'll figure it out.
Well, Forrest Daws has been our guest this evening. Forrest, I think that's our final questions we've got in the chat tonight. Again, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to talk your son into this. I think you need to host a show on SCV Chat. I know you've got a great voice and you do a good job at this. I think you need a show.
Well, I appreciate that. I will leave that to the professionals, as I say, but I will certainly be happy to jump on and help out from time to time.
Absolutely. Well, Forrest, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're a busy man. You have a lot going. I serve as the Tennessee Division Commander, you over Mississippi. I know we both have busy jobs, a lot going on in our states, and I appreciate you taking time out. And we wish you the best in the upcoming election in July as you're seeking the office of Army of Tennessee Councilman. As the Commander-in-Chief there says, the voice of the South. You do have a great voice, and I think you've got another career there as well.
Thank you, Commander, and thank you as well, Commander.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Forrest. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Look Around the Confederation. Again, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you, Moose, for allowing me to come on to fill in tonight as we've had Forrest on. Again, Forrest, thank you so much for answering those questions. And thank you for our viewers tonight that have been with us throughout the program. A good viewership. I ask you to share this video with your camps and with your brigades and in your division, especially if you're in the Army of Tennessee. You have a chance to hear the candidate tonight to speak and answer questions. And again, Forrest, if they want to reach out to you and they have questions outside of what we talked about tonight, can they do that?
Absolutely. I would encourage people to either email or reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, simply because I do have an erratic schedule. A lot of times people will call me and I'll be in the middle of something, but if you email me, forestsdaws@gmail.com, or reach out to me on Facebook. Forrest S. Daws is my name on that as well, and you can reach out there, and I'll be happy to get back with you as soon as possible and go over any information you'd like.
All right, Forrest, thank you so much. As you see tonight going across the bottom of the screen, thank you to our Patreon sponsors this evening and our show sponsors. We couldn't do this without them. We appreciate their support. Again, if you would like to become a Patreon sponsor, you can go to scvchat.com. You'll find all the details there. If you'd like to become a monthly show sponsor, you can also do that. There's many different levels. There's a perfect level where you can fit in to support what we're doing here on SCV Chat. And we want to continue to grow this network. All you've got to do is share these videos, tag folks in them, and let them know. Send them out via email. Send them to the website. There's many different avenues for you to learn more about what we're doing on SCV Chat. And we thank you so much for listening tonight. Have yourself a great rest of this evening. Talk to you on Tuesday. Me and Jason, I think, will be back on Tuesday. So have yourself a great rest of this week, everybody. God bless.